welcome to the Lobby of Hobbies podcast. This is our 9th episode. I'm your host, Jazz, and I'm joined by my long-missed co-host, Judge, today. Judge, how's it going today, sir?
What's going on, brother? How's everybody doing? It's been so long. I miss everybody. Let's get this thing started.
So I know you've been busy. You've been on your grind doing your music production stuff. How's that been going? How's everything going with that?
So far, so good. We did a competition a few weeks ago. We didn't place, but we did get really good feedback from the producers that we worked with. And it just gave us the drive to even do more. So now we officially have our website out. That is live. So it's asteroidmusic.com, asteroidmuziq.com. Trying to get as official as I can. Other than that, it's really been a grind. We're starting a beat store, so we're going to be selling music online. There's a new game that just dropped, video game. So Marvel Avengers just dropped, and me being a superhero geek, I can't miss that. So that's been up and running. And last but not least, one thing that's going to help us out, as well as everything else going on, is I will start streaming soon. I finally got the streaming set up. I will be streaming on Twitch, and I'll be doing music production, video gaming, and also board gaming when we're ready to do that. So that's going to be a wonderful way to engage in our community and other communities as well as time goes on. Just trying to find ways to upgrade any which way we can so that we can do more and establish a greater community.
Awesome. So like I said, yeah, we've been missing. I know the people probably been missing you. We can't
I
hear if
miss
they
y'all
are
too.
missing you, but I know they're listening to us now, and they're like, yeah, we missed them. Thanks for being back. The dynamic duo is back. Um, but let's just get right into it. I know recently we did, in that time we have gotten a chance, not really play some board games, but we tried something new. The idea that we trying to introduce new games to people. We got a chance to get a taste of what RPG is all about. Everybody, if you've never heard of RPG or don't know what RPG, it's a role-playing game. All right, and we're not talking about like Final Fantasy video game role-playing. We're actually talking about live RPG, like Dungeons and Dragons type RPG, where you would normally sit at a table, and you would set up a scenario where you're talking actually the game out, and you have a dungeon master or a game master who's actually kind of controlling the game. But it wasn't Dungeons and Dragons that we played. Judge, tell the people the game that we got a chance to play.
It was called Kids on Bikes.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool. So, the game is actually designed by Jonathan Gilmore, and don't, get me wrong with this pronunciation, Doug Lewandowski. I think that's how you pronounce it. But those two guys designed this, this setting for kids on bikes. And I think if you want to think about it, kind of get a feel for what it's designed to be, if you think about the TV show Stranger Things on Netflix, or like the movie Goonies or anything like that, it's kind of set in that, like, small town 80s kind of vibe. That's kind of the scenario of it. And I think it's legit. You got a chance to, choose our own characters, right? Make our own and build our own characters. What's awesome. We had, I know for me, I've been, me and Judge, I know you and I have been talking about trying to get into this RPG, testing it out, because we've heard some board game friends that we've met at conventions and things like that who have been doing it and say you have to try RPG at least once. You may not, and it may not be for you, but give it a try. So we say, you know what, hey, we want to introduce new people to some new things with this hobby of gaming in general, right? So we might as well take our own challenge ourselves and introduce ourselves to something new, which we did. I guess this was the challenge, right? This is our challenge. But Judge, what did you think of this?
Man, I had too much fun. I think the biggest thing for me was the creativity part of it. When we created our characters, like we had a lot of information to go off of, which was really good for me because having a direction is always good to have. So we got to pick our skills that we could use. We got to pick our different tactics, the type of person that we wanted to be. It was too much fun to just role play those characters. An example was my name was Eric Jones, and I had 7 siblings, in a big house, and I was the lone weirdo that you always watch walk around the city with his headphones on, because he didn't want to be bothered because he got too, he deals with too much at home. And when I tell you the fun that we got into, and I think it was 13. I think it was 13, yeah, 13 years old. And like the fun we got into was it was amazing, man. It you would have never thought, like, as the as we kept going on, like so many twists and turns when it went from, hey, let's meet up at an arcade, all of a sudden to Juby hunting in the forest. Just like, and then we come back hero somehow and it's all for some chick, and it was just like, it's crazy. It was just amazing. But ultimately being able to play with you and the other fellas, and having a great game master was amazing. Like it was just great. It was a great overall experience for me.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I know some friends that have told me, "Hey, you need to try, you know, Dungeons and Dragons, but make sure you have a good game master that kind of sets the game up, knows what they're doing, and kind of helps everybody get engaged." Um, and we've never played it. I know I decided, hey, let me get this Kids on Bikes, booklet so we can play this game or give it a try. I know I've been wanting to, so I went on a couple RPG forums on Facebook and things like that, and I was trying to figure out, just Google, hey, what's the easiest RPG you can kind of get into? What's a good one, but also you can enjoy? And someone referred Kids on Bikes, so I looked into it. I bought the book, read through the book. I think it was like I got it right before the COVID, the pandemic really hit, and the lockdown quarantine went. So I had some time to read it through. I found the Facebook group, and I just went on there. It says, "Hey, is anybody interested in being a game master for completely new players to this game?" And we had a guy named Cullen who, you know, opened his, pretty much opened his not only his time but his, I guess, his mental capacity to deal with us first, right? New players. You're thinking like,
Right,
you
right.
have a guy who's a veteran in just role playing in general, but also this game, who said, "Hey, you know what? I'll teach you guys." We met him on Facebook. We, got everything set up on our Discord, and he was nice enough to create a game, created maps for the town that we were a part of. Um, and yeah, she helped us create our character names, our character sheet, what our abilities were, what our little our I guess our strengths and our weaknesses were. My character was Slater Gray, aka Slate Gray. um,
Hmm.
you know no no play on Slater from Saved by the Bell. But yeah, but and it was pretty cool. We got a chance to play with my youngest brother, Jaden, who's a senior in high school. That was pretty cool. And we also got a chance to play with Mike over at Pentree Games, who is the designer, along with his wife, of the newly set to fulfill Kickstarter On the Rocks. So a little plug there about On the Rocks, and I think it's going to shortly be releasing retail after that. So check that one out. I know we're going to get a chance to. I back that one, so when that comes in, we're going to get a chance to play that, review that one, see how that was about, and hopefully get a chance to have Mike on this show as well. But yeah, it was pretty cool to have, characters that, you know, in the game, in this like storytelling. Think of it as like, you're using your mind to create the whole entire story, which I thought was pretty cool. Um, but yeah, it was an opportunity to try something new, and I had a blast doing it. It was something that I definitely would do again. I know we've talked about, hey, let's try Dungeons and Dragons, right? We talked about that. So we said, hey, we'll give ourselves a couple weeks to learn what it is about Dungeons and Dragons, creating characters with that. And Colin said he would, be our game master for that one as well. So we don't want to open. So we'll say thank you to him. Thank you to him for also joining our Discord, our Facebook group as well. We appreciate that, Colin. If you're listening, we are excited to do some more RPG adventures with you. But today's episode, we actually are going to get a chance to talk about some games that we were able to review. I know our friend that we met over at the Ops Games. His name is Ross. We got a chance to sit down and talk with him in an interview, which I thought was awesome that he was able to take that time, which many companies have been doing, which is awesome. You know, taking this time during the quarantine to sit down with content creators, to do interviews with them, but to also kind of build upon what they're doing within the community of board gaming, within the hobby, to let people know what's going on this year, especially with a lot of the conventions this summer. Gen Con, Origins. We know PAX Unplugged is going to be canceled this year. Essen Spiel has been canceled. Everything's going online. So even some board game companies have been doing their own thing. And the Op actually did their own thing during Gen Con. They did this thing called the Op at Home, where you were able to go in and demo games and play games online and get this opportunity to play some of their party games, which was pretty cool. But we sat down with Ross, and I know I enjoyed myself sitting down with Ross. How about you, Judge?
No, it was really good, just because I didn't realize until like doing some research beforehand, how much I love their games. Like, I have games that I didn't realize they were theirs. And I'm a hefty Target shopper, so I'm always at Target looking at board games, and didn't realize that half of their games are at Target, and games that I actually stop to look at without even knowing what they are. They have awesome box covers. Read the back, and they seem very interesting. And even with the games that we were able to review for them, were just so much fun. It was like a good mix of party slash like a way to mend into that board gaming, modern day board gamer. I always go into that because like that's how I was. I started party games, and then as time progressed, realized that there can be so much more you can do within the gaming realm, that board gaming realm. And I just ended up geeking out at a certain point, because I realized like these guys make some of the best games I've ever seen. So I love it. I was very happy to be able to review all the games that we were able to review. And I mean, it was an honor, because and even how he carried himself in the interview, and he was very excited to talk to us like it was the first time they've ever made the game. And these guys, you could tell that they believe in the product that they sell. You could tell that they love to engage with their customers. They love to engage with their clients. Even when they make their what are those, the custom games, even when they make those games for clients who want a particular type of game in their realm, they do that really well too. But overall, man, I'm just excited, because after seeing all that, I want to make a Lobby of Hobbies game, and so we can get our own custom game out of the mix. And I know that's not the last time we'll be talking to them, and I know I look forward to all the games they have coming out, because there were some games I know we weren't able to review or get because they're still under works, or they're dealing with some things, but COVID hit, so kind of backed everything up. I'm looking forward to a few games that they do have coming out too. So
Yeah,
I enjoyed it.
yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. Like you said, I think that was the one key thing that you hit on. Like, you know, in this community of this tabletop gaming, right? We've been to the PAX Unplugged and convention, but we've also just been to local board game shops, right? And we've met people who are just so open just to sit down, talk with you, talk to you about games, stuff that they enjoy. But Ross, who's over at the Op Games, to see his passion, like you were talking about, his excitement for when we were just interviewing him, having a conversation, but it was like I felt like I was sitting down with someone who was at a board game shop who was just excited to show me a game. Like you can you can tell that he wasn't just here trying to just pitch a game to me or to us. He was there really just like almost he was his own fan of the game. So you can tell that he was not only working for a company just making games, he was enjoying the games that their company was making and putting out, which I thought was awesome. And what's cool about them is that they're a company who has licensing for a bunch of different IPs, different intellectual properties out there. Star Wars, Disney, Harry Potter, a bunch of different things that they have. This I think believe The Simpsons. But what's cool is that this company makes those, like, I guess. Those different IPs for monopolies, like the Simpsons Monopoly. They even have a Golden Girls Monopoly, all this stuff. So if you're a big Monopoly fan, which or player, which I'm not, honestly, um, I'll play it. I will. I'll play a Monopoly game, but that's not the first thing I'm gonna pick off the shelf. But listen, they have those things, and I think what's cool, like you were saying, is they have that good crossover into getting into modern gaming, right? They have those different um, IPs that people would be interested. So if you're a big Star Wars fan, this might be the company that has games on that Target or Walmart shelf that you're going to say, hey, let me check this game out, just because you're a big Star Wars fan and you see that Star Wars game. But they even have some games that are not specifically centered to those intellectual properties, that just good games in general, fun family entry level games. But they even have some games that are on a deeper strategy level. So if you get a chance, go to the opgames.com if you're listening, and check that website out. But without further ado, let's start getting into some of the games that we got a chance to review and check out from them. I know, Judge, you have the first game in your possession. Why don't you let us know what that first game is?
So the first game we have here is Telestrations Upside Drawn. Even now it may look backwards, but this is this is what the game looks like. Nice size box, good size, fun, family friendly. And Jazz, I know you got to play it too. Did you want to talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, it was cool. I got a chance to play it. What the good thing about it, the game kind of works like on a team base, which is pretty cool. I'm a big fan of Telestrations. It's something that I picked up to have in my collection. I even wasn't able to get the big party box version of the regular Telestrations, which is pretty much like a drawing version of like Whisper Down the Lane, where you have a word, you draw something, and then you pass it to the person to your right, and everybody's kind of passing their booklet, and you get a chance to see the person's drawing, guess what it is, and you're writing that word. The next person sees the word, and then they're going to try and draw something according to that word. That's just a quick gist of what that game's about. But pretty much that goes all the way around. When you eventually get your book back, you're trying to you just pretty much flip through it and see what your starting word was, and what the people around the table thought it was. You'll see, like, a elephant transform into, like, I don't know, scrambled eggs or something. It's just crazy the things that happen. But that game is more like for laughs. You're not playing that game, on a really competitive level. There is a scoring mechanism there, but with Upside Drawn, it is more on a competitive level, and it still takes that basis of drawing a card, where you have your team. We played it. My wife and I, we played with my brother-in-laws and their significant others, and it was we each team had a whiteboard in front of them, and one person on the team is the clue giver, and one person is the drawer. Okay, and what's funny is not the clue giver is not the one drawing. How it works is if I'm the clue giver, pretty much what I would do is I would pick a card. We would look amongst that card with everybody else who's going to be the clue giver, and we're all clue giving at the same time. And we have 5 different phrases. I think there's people, places, things, and there's even phrases. But you roll a die, you figure out which category you're doing, you look at that card, and everybody's looking at that one word, whoever's the clue giver. And then when they're ready, they take the whiteboard and they lay it out on the table in front of them, and their partner is sitting across from the table, and that partner is actually holding a pen or a dry erase marker, and the only thing that the clue giver can do is say up or down. with their pen. And there's different things they pretty much know the category that everybody's trying to draw. And you say up or down, and you as the clue giver are actually moving the board, the whiteboard, and making your partner draw what it is that you need them to draw. Um, so for example, let's say it was a thing and it was basketball court, you know, I would tell my wife up, down, and every time she puts her pen down, she's actually physically putting her pen down on the dry erase board, and I'm actually making her draw. She can't draw herself because she obviously doesn't know what the word is, but it was pretty cool. I thought it was fun. It was a good play on Telestrations. I will be honest, I'm a bigger fan of the original Telestrations. Not that I didn't like this game. I thought this game was great. I like the competitive aspect. And I think it works great with certain groups. If you have groups that are heavily competitive, people that like drawing games like Pictionary and stuff like that, this is one of those games I think you need to check out. And it's cool. You don't always have to just play in partners. You can actually play in smaller groups of teams where maybe our group is 3 or 4 people. You know, we can have one person that's technically the drawing person, and everybody else is sitting behind them looking at what that person is actually drawing, making a guess. And it's pretty much whichever team guesses it correctly the first time, they score a point. And certain words are worth certain point values, and whoever I think gets to 10 first wins the game. So it was good. My team didn't win. So it's one of those things where what's pretty cool about it is you can't look at your opponent's drawings. So if you're the one who has the pen going up and down, and you're the one trying to look at what your partner's making you draw, you technically can't look over at their picture and see if their picture is much better. You can hear them, of course, what they're trying to say and their guesses. So you kind of go off of that, which I found a little bit difficult at one time. You know, you have those people who are eye gazers who are looking over, but it was a great game. You know I got a chance to play it, and I know we weren't able to get a chance to play it with you and your wife and everybody, but that I know you guys have it, and you guys have been set to give it a try pretty soon. But yeah, that's definitely one I would definitely recommend to anybody who's into like fun party games. That's definitely one. So check that out, Telestrations Upside Drawn. And I know you have our second game that we got a chance to review. Why don't you talk about that one? And I think you got a chance to play it. I've seen it. I think I've demoed it, but you checked this one out. What was this one?
Yes, I did. This one is Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle. Amazing game. I actually really like this game. Big box, kind of heavy, but I like games that are a little complicated like that. But even pulling the game out and actually playing it, it wasn't that hard to get at all. The game consists of you picking your characters, one of the main characters, Hermione, Harry, Ron Weasley, or a few others, and you fight against a villain of whichever villain you have at the time. So, what's the guy's name from Draco Malfoy and his other villain person, the one who shall not be named. We'll just say that. And it's a co-op game, which you already know. I love co-op games, period. That's just a bias of mine. And how it works is it's very similar to Runestones, which is, again, another one of my favorite games.
Another deck builder, too. You're a big deck builder, exactly. Man.
Yep, I'm learning that as I go. So I'm definitely drawn into the little deck builders. And each character has their own deck. You have Hogwarts cards, and each cards are in the midst of a game. So game 1 is based on the first movie, game 2, all the way up to game 7. They're all, the higher they go, the harder it gets. The more you risk, the higher the reward. Sometimes, it doesn't pan out well. Other times it does. And ultimately, once you beat the game 1's villain, once you beat both villains on game 1, you evolve the game. You mix in game 2 cards all together in the Hogwarts decks and the villains and the locations, and then you start all over again. And then you keep going, you keep progressing until you get to game 7. Once you go to game 7, you win the entire game. You can win it in sections. If you choose to stop, you can stop, but that's completely up to you. The way the game goes is you have tokens. You have attack tokens, you have health token, and you have influence tokens, and is a one called a villain control. Um, if the villain wins, that's how they win, by taking full control over a location. All
Okay.
right, so you have two locations that you have to protect to make sure that they don't. And the only way to defeat the villain is to attack them with the attack tokens for the amount of life that they have. Once you defeat that villain, there's a reward that they have on their card that you have that ability for. You use that ability. If the villain is not defeated at the end of each player's turn, their consequence is activated, which could be lose 2 life. Villain controls add another villain control token to the location. So 4 villain control tokens completely overtakes the location. So they have 2 times to do that.
So, so the two different locations.
Right. Once they have both locations captured, that's you lose the game.
Okay.
Okay, so the thing about this game that makes it different from Runestones is that when you build your deck, you have to get rid of it just as fast as you built it, because your next turn you reset everything resets again. So you get influence. The influence that you generate buys other cards within their little Hogwarts pool. There's 6 cards that you get to choose from. And as you buy them, you activate the cards, you activate what's on the cards, whether you gain health, you gain attack tokens, you gain more influence. Either way, you keep pulling and pulling until you run out of everything, right? The whole basis is to run out of everything you have that turn so that you maximize your efforts into defeating the villain.
Yep.
So once you start with 5 cards, get the 5 cards and you spread them out and you figure out what you want to do. Usually you want to talk to your teammate at this point, because you want to see they have their cards out too, so they kind of want to work together to figure out how we're going to defeat the villain together. All right, so because certain cards can give your player, your partner, more influence tokens, so that means there's more money for them to buy other cards that may be needed to defeat the villain, or another way to ramp up some more attack tokens. It all depends on your play style. And as the game goes on, they do have 2 expansions to the game, and which is something that I'm interested in getting to add a little spice to the game altogether. But ultimately, I had a good time playing it, and I mean, we won. We definitely won that game, and it was too much fun. It was just too much fun, and I definitely would like to play it with at least 4 people next time, because I want to see how, the more minds into it, the harder it gets, the more we get to work with more people. So I think that'd be fun to do.
Yeah. So how did you like how the ramping up goes from like game 1 to game 2? Like, because it does get harder. Like I like I said, I've done a quick demo of this one at a convention, but I was able to get a copy of the Toy Story version of this, which was I think
Right.
called Obstacles and Adventures, which has the same thing, kind of ramping, where you're playing through like the first game, where you're like trying to kill. Not kill, because toys don't kill each other or fight, right? But
Right.
in this one, there's not fighting, but you have to succeed in completing objectives, and you're going from the first one is like the first movie Sid, and then the second one you have Stinky Pete, and Jesse gets to join the team and all that stuff, and you're moving through the movies, and even 2 of the I guess the little short movies that they did, like the Christmas one and whatnot. But
Mm.
so how did you, I know I love the ramping up in that one, and I'll tell you, my wife and I played it, and that one is hard. Like, how did you see like the ramping up with this? Did it get significantly harder like as you were progressing?
It definitely it didn't get significantly harder, but it got to a point where you got a little bit of analysis paralysis, right?
uh,
So because the bigger the risk, like you really had to take a risk to know. And even working with my teammate, it was like do we want to take the risk, because we could really lose out if everything doesn't happen the way it needs to. So like I know game two had a plethora of Hogwarts cards. So it definitely made the deck like huge, right? So
Yeah.
and what I realized is like a lot of the cards, you got more influence, to do a little bit more, but they definitely cost a whole lot more. So you had to find a way to build that influence. And I think that was the hardest part, building the way to get the money to get the cards and be able to activate those cards all at the same time. I think because after your turn, you reset, you all your cards that you use are discarded. You select your you select your 5 cards from your deck. If the villain is not defeated, his trait is activated. So that means whoever that next player is, if he says if the villain is still alive, he may lose 2 health. So you want to keep track of your health, you want to keep track of the attack points, and you want to keep track of your influence, because after the turn also you lose everything you got. So if you have influence left, you have to discard it. It goes right back into the pool.
Yeah, that's similar to the to Toy Story, where you gain I forget what the tokens are, but they're like the little lamps from Toy Story, the Pixar lamp. But you gain those, and they're similar to the influence in Harry Potter. And like I said, if you don't use those tokens to purchase cards or to use them to defeat or complete the objective, you do lose those, which I thought
Mm-hmm.
was it did add to like that puzzly aspect of what you're doing, like what you're
Right.
trying to figure out. But I definitely enjoyed that. I know I was like, I'm a big fan of Toy Story. Like Toy Story is that one movie that I can sit down with my daughter and um,
Right.
it's funny. Like I don't think she watches it. She watches me say all the words because I know everything like word for word in the movie. But so it's one of those where if you're a big fan of the Toy Story movie, I know I fell in love with it. And I'm pretty sure this one's the same thing. If you're a big fan of Harry Potter, which I know that I am, and I know there's some big Harry Potter fans out there, this is probably one that you think this is probably one they need to check out.
Absolutely, because like when I tell you they have every aspect of the movie in the game, they do. From all the allies that they had within their
The houses, right? Is that what
yeah,
they call
within their
the
houses, right? They had
Gryffindor, all that stuff? Yeah,
everybody, the teachers, the wizards, the witches, the ones on campus, the ones off campus. When they went back home, the whole meeting on the train and getting to campus, the pets, they had everything, and the Quidditch matches. They had Quidditch in there too. So like, I mean, it's an amazing game. It really is fun, and like I said, influence is everything. You need to buy stuff to make stuff work. You know when's the best time to ramp up all your influence to then activate all these abilities, and that was the biggest thing, to make sure that we did enough damage, but still didn't lose health, to make sure that we defeated the villains and not die. Like so
awesome.
the interesting fact was that in my gameplay we didn't have a lot of villain control. Like we didn't have to, the locations wasn't really a problem for us, so all we had to make sure is that we just took them out before it got bad for us. Mine was like life management. That's how it was played out. It was like, okay, wait, we keep losing 2 life, we need to figure out how to get that life back and also attack him at the same time, because the attack token stayed on the villain. So that was the advantage that we did have, but everything else had to go.
Gotcha.
So it was, the game three was the same thing. It didn't have a lot of cards, but I mean, cost 8 influence to pull out Gandalf. Like, how do you even get eight influences with 5 cards? Some have 2 and majority of them have 1. So it's like, well, where am I going to get 8 from? And
Gotcha.
so trying to pull those cards out to make it work, to get them and then actually activate his ability, it gets crazy. It gets
And
really
I
crazy.
think you mean Dumbledore.
Yes, you're right. I went to a whole nother movie. Listen, y'all, don't kill me, because I know some of these Harry Potter fans about to murder me for that.
No,
I'm
but I
so
think that
sorry.
no, I think that one's cool because I've recently they recently released an expansion. I think the Charms and and potions.
Potions. Yep.
Yeah, which I kept seeing everybody who purchased that was saying, "Wow, like this makes this game is incredible now with that expansion." So not that it wasn't good, but they said somewhere if you have this game, they said this is a must have
Yeah.
expansion. So, I'm excited to play that one and also check out that expansion as well. But let's keep moving on along. So the next game we had that we got a chance to play, we had we were able within the midst to have a couples thing. We got to play a few of these games together. The next three I believe we played. So this one is called Astro Trash.
Not to be confused with my production company, guys.
Yeah. So what's cool about Astro Trash is that it's like a dexterity game. So it's super easy. The games last like, the whole entire game probably maybe lasts 10, maybe 15 minutes, but like a round you can legit do in like under 2 minutes. But it's pretty cool. There's like a sun that you place in the center of the table. So it's like the sun, and then around it every person has like a little planet board in front of them, and they have just different color pieces of trash. So there's just pink one, blue one. I think on the board it just shows you. So you got pink, blue, green, red, yellow, different colors of trash, and they start on your board, and depend on how many players you have. Um, so if it's a 3-player game, you have, I think it's like 16 pieces of trash on your board, and it goes like up to a 5-player game. I think it's like 12 or 10 or something like that. And each player has 3 sets of dice. The dice have numbers on them. So it's like, I think it's number 1 and number 2, and there might be a 3, I forget, but I know it's 1 and 2s on them. There's a second die that has directional, so it's like an L for left, an R for right, and then I believe it's a question mark for any direction you want to go, either left or right. And then there's a sun, which means direction is the sun, which is out in front of you on the board. And then there's another one that has a die with all the different colors that match the colors of trash on your planet. And the idea is you roll these 3 dice and you look at what the outcome is. And if you rolled a pink color, an L, and 2, which means you can remove up to 2 pieces from your planet and pass them and put them on the person to your left's planet. So the idea is getting the trash off of your planet and clearing it off, and either passing it left or right to whatever opponent, whatever color it is, or putting it on the sun in front of you. Which I was always praying that I rolled the sun, because you knew if you pass the left or right, there was a time where it was just chaotic, where you got the same trash you pass on that same turn, they were passing it back to you. But I thought was pretty cool about it is, while it's just fun, you can play with your kids, you can kind of, I guess you can dummy it down a little bit would be the term, or make it a little bit easier, a little novice. What I thought was a pretty cool strategy that made it like where you get frustrated a little bit is if you roll the die and you roll a color that you don't have on your board, but it says left or 2 pieces, you don't just re-roll the colored die, you have to re-roll everything. So you might have that turn rolled 2 pieces of trash, but for some reason you had the blue trash that you were able to move, but you don't have blue. You're like, man, I wish I had pink, but you can't just re-roll that to try and get another color. You have to roll everything, which did make it frustrating, but made it fun. This is one of those chaotic type games. It's going quick, it's going fast, which is cool. We even got a chance to play with your girls, and
yeah,
we pretty much just took out the color die. It was pretty much the direction and the number, which was cool even for them, because you can play that as a family. And I thought that was pretty cool that you can roll, they can roll those 2 dice, and was good for them. They're learning, they're counting and getting on that stuff, right? So it's like, all right, how many pieces do you move? 2. So you move them either to the left, to the right, or to the sun. And they caught on really fast, and I know they were loving it. What did you think about this one, Judge?
No, I felt the same way. I love the chaos behind it. It was definitely a cool way of understanding a game really fast. Like I said, we heard about the game when we talked to His name was Ross, right?
Yeah,
Ross.
Ross.
We heard about the game. We talked to Ross, and then I looked into it. I was like, okay, it's cool, fast paced, easy. Knowing my wife, she's party games only at this point. Trying, guys, just pray for me when you get a chance. Um, but once she figured it out in seconds, it was just fun. As soon as we said go, it was on. And it was too much fun. And that's the thing I liked about the game too, being able to play it with you guys and then having it to where we can play with the girls, because I'm always about inclusiveness. And if my girls see me doing something, I always want to include them. I don't ever want them to think that because mommy or daddy's doing something, you can't do it. So the fact that we were able to dumb the game down and not have to worry about them eating the pieces because they were big enough, and then also not losing the pieces because we played with them. And it helped them. It helped them with their colors because they know their colors, they know their shapes. So for them to match the shape and the color, and now they're working on their letters, and their letter recognition was pretty good. They said L left, R right, and we had one that went on the sun, and they knew what the sun was, and so it was definitely fun in both aspects. It was a little slower with the kids, but that's okay because you want them to learn that. Um, as time progresses, they'll get faster and faster with it. And now, as you see, like Ariel is now in school, so and her playing the game definitely got brought some level of advancement um, into her academics, because the school called us and was like, hey, we have an open space, and realized Ariel progresses at an academic level and can start school. So I thought that was pretty cool. But overall, fun game, fast, chaotic, my type game. I definitely lost both times. My wife won the first one, and I think Delilah won the second one. Or was
I
that
think
you?
so. I think she won.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
So of course
the
the ladies
wives.
won.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ones that don't like the games, they get to win all. And trust me, we was trying to win. I'm telling you, I was trying to win. It was rough, y'all. It was rough. But I mean,
Yeah.
those pieces was flying. Like sometimes I could have sworn my wife was cheating, but
Push them off. Push them off.
it
Push them
was
off.
right. She's like, get them out of the trash. I'm like, yeah, you do that at home. It always ends up in my stuff anyway. So, so
No, but
she was a natural at it. But yeah,
yeah,
ultimately fun.
yeah.
Definitely
This is
recommend it.
fun. I think this is one of those. I think if you're completely new to games, yeah, check it out, Astro Trash. And I think also if you're looking for something, if you're like a strategy game type person, and you have a game night and you're looking for, you're gonna play this big, 2 hour game, and you're waiting for people to get there. This is one of those games that you can pull out while you have everybody, the first 3 or 4 people that are there, you're waiting for that last person to get there. Throw this out, have something, filler game, just start off, play this, kind of get into the mix, get the juices flowing. I think that's a pretty good, so check that out, Astro Trash. um, and then the next one again is another party game that we had a blast. I really like this one. So it's called Blank Slate, and we had a chance to play this. So the idea of Blank Slate is everybody gets these dry erase boards, depending on what your color is, um, and pretty much you're playing for themselves. It's you could probably make it a team game if you wanted to, or partners playing to see after however many rounds who gets the most points between both partners. But the premise of the game is there's a draw deck, and the draw deck has a word on it, and and it has almost like a compound word, for example, or um, a so the word could pretty much, let's say the example on the back of the box says blank house. So everybody gets an opportunity to write a word on their little dry erase board. And for example, you can write brick for brick house. You can write dog on your board, dog house. You know, um, you know, doll house, outhouse, whatever the case may be. And once you finish writing your thing, you place it face down, and everybody reveals the words at the same time that they had. And if your word matches one other person's word, I believe you got 3 points for it. So you want to match one other person, but if you match more than one person, I believe you only get 1 point for those. So it's kind of, if you've played categories where you're trying to write a word, you roll the die, there's a letter, and you're trying to write a word to match the starting letter. And you don't want anybody to have your word, because if you don't, you actually get points. This is kind of the opposite, where you do want people to match or have the same word that you have, but you only want that one person. Like, it allows you to get more points. And what's cool, sometimes it may not be blank house. It may be, uh, it might start off uh, uh, with trash at the beginning, and it's trash dumpster or whatever the case may be, but the blank word is either at the front or the back. And it's pretty cool. It's really quick, very fun. We had a blast playing it. I think my wife destroyed us all on that one. um, you
Yes.
know but yeah, that was fun. What did you think about this one?
It's definitely challenged my marriage. Realize we have nothing in common when we think about when we think about words. I'm looking like, yeah, she gonna think about this. She gonna think, what is that? Like, it was something left field. But it was definitely hilarious to see what we all got. As results. It was definitely fun. Again, Jazz's wife Delilah, the guru of gaming, somehow trashed us horribly too. She won by like 30 points. Like, everybody else had 6, she had like 37. Like, so um ultimately it was a ball. Like, because I think the thing was, even though it kind of went fast, every time we went on, I was like, all right, well, we got that one wrong, but we gotta get this one right next time. Like, and we all over here trying to read her mind, like, look at me, like, look at me in my face. You see what I'm about to write, right? Okay, fail. Like, it didn't even work. So, y'all just, again, pray for me, because we gotta figure out what we about to do in this marriage, because this
so,
is
so it's funny because
communication was horrible.
for those listening, what we decided to do when we played this game is we decided to play it almost like a couples game. We kind of just made our rules
Yeah,
up, and we were like, to see, you know, we'll play to the first person gets to the max score, whoever that is gets to the max score. But then we would look at both of the couples' scores combined and see who won. And it was pretty cool. So that's that. For those that couldn't pick up on that reference, that's kind of how we played it. So this may not be a game that you play that way. The rules don't necessarily say that way. But what's good about party games is you can make them to fit your party, your group, or how you want to play,
right. You
which
can
is
make your
awesome.
house rules.
But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
this is I think this is a pretty cool party game to check out. And if you're a big fan of just word games, this is definitely a fun one to have at your table. Have new gamers come to, if people who are not into games at all, but they want to get together and they're used to party games. You bring out this; they've never seen it, and they say, "Oh, I'll check this out." And they're next thing you know, they're at their Target, they pick it up. So when you're at their house, they're like, "Hey, guess what I bought?" Which is pretty cool. When I find when I have I know I have some easy party games in my collection, and I've gone over family members' houses, after introducing them to a game at my house, and they'll say, "Hey, I picked up this game. Why don't we play it?" And I'm like, "Oh," they're like, "We had a good time playing it at your house." So that's good to have some of these party games in your collection. Um, the next one was a new release party game as well. That I think, Judge, why don't you talk about this one?
So, last but not least, we have, oh no, not last but not least, but second to last, Hues and Cues. This game was definitely a challenge. Now, let me explain why. It's definitely not a bad game at all. Not at all. It was definitely a fun, again, party type, family party type game. You They have a huge deck of cards, and the board literally has over 100 colors, blending from red all the way down to purple. So, they go through the entire rainbow just about, and it's a graph. It's like a little chart. So, the darkest red may be A1, which is on the top corner, and then you have like a green all the way down here, like a J23. So when you open the card, you have 4 different color options. You choose, and then you put the card up, and then you have to say a word that describes that color without saying the color. And it has to be one word. So that's the first part. And then the second time you can say two words. So when you say the first words, each other player gets to guess and put their token down where they think that color is. So let's say like the one that we did that was funny was a purple. You know, it's like Barney was the word, and you know, we some people had the dark Barney, some people had the light skinned Barney. Like there was two different types of Barneys. And we all looked at each other like, which Barney did you watch when you was little? I said, well, I was in Canada, so I had the dark Barney, you know. So
And
but
sometimes
then
I don't think it's I don't think it was what type of Barney where you're from. I think it was like how good of a TV could you afford, depending on how good the colors were on your TV.
very true. Like, oh, I can tell what type of TV you had, brother. I had to bust it when I had no reds and blues in my TV. But and after the first time you put a marker down, everyone goes clockwise to the player who drew the card. Then they give another clue. Then you put your next marker down. And then there's a little box that keeps track of the points. So the middle of the box is the number and letter on the chart that you selected. You drop that. Anyone within that box has 2 points. No, gets 3 points. Anyone on the outskirts of the box gets 2 points. And then outside of its borders, on the outside of the box, you get 1 point. And if you're if you're not touching the border, you don't get any points. The person who had the color gets points for every person that made it in the box or around the box. So, and that's how the game went. I think it went all the way up to 100 too. And I'm looking, and I was like, I don't even know how we're gonna make it there, because the funny thing about the game is, though we had fun, we realized that Jazz and myself, well, I'll speak for myself. I'll let you speak for yourself. That myself, me and colors and and how to describe colors don't get along. I'm like, I describe music. I can't really do colors like that. So it was just funny to like really look through the cards and like, oh my gosh, how am I going to describe this? And it does. What the typical man thing is like, nah, that's red, that ain't peach, or like that's orange, that ain't peach. You know, that's not. There's no magenta, that's red. You know, it was things like that, and it was just hilarious to go through. Like grass, I don't even know how we made it to grass, but grass was on there.
It was like
And
burnt grass, or like it was like
my interpretation of grass was completely different from everybody else's.
it's like
It was
burnt grass. Does he mean
hilarious.
brown, or does he mean like burnt by the sun, where it's like yellowish?
Right, or is it fall grass? Who knew? I didn't even know. I was just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, but this was one I thought it was really fun.
Yeah, it was like you hear us now, right? You know, it really was. It brought back some good times, because all we did playing all these games was just laugh at each other, because we love hanging out with each other, but at the same time, you know, to be able to create these memories is also a great thing. And like overall, before we get into the last game, overall the games that we played together that night, I mean, the op, they're the company, man. You see, look, we didn't play what, 5 games together almost. Well, 4 games together, and in that instance, it created a permanent memory. You know, like amongst my wife and I, and Jazz and his wife, and as a collective, and the ops can do that for you guys. Like seriously, you know, and yeah, but Hues and Cues, crazy.
Yeah, I thought it was good. You know, it was cool. Like I said, it's like one of those games where you definitely want people to find your color, because the more people that get your color as a clue giver, you're gonna, you're actually gonna score points.
Right.
And the other people, like I said, is how it was cool. It wasn't really how you see colors; it's how you describe the color, but also how you interpret the color of what's being described, right? So, what's pretty cool, and I know when Ross had introduced this game to us, my first question to him was, my dad's colorblind, and he sees things in different hues. Exactly, it's hues and cues. Um, how does this game play with people who are colorblind? And the first thing he says is this game is perfectly good for people who are colorblind because it's not what you see as red. It's what I guess it's what's described to you as red. So for example, you can't say the color. So if it's red, you can't just say red, but you can say like candy apple, or you can say apple or fire truck or things like that. And what's cool is that um, you know I see a fire truck red as legit fire truck red because I'm not colorblind. But when my dad, I can give him that clue because however he sees a fire truck red or a fire truck, that's the hue that he's looking for on that board, which I thought was pretty cool. It's a pretty neat twist on how a game incorporates colors, and I know that's something that's been big recently is how color friendly are many of the board games that are hitting the market, and this one is a party game about colors, and it's perfectly fine for people who are colorblind, which I thought was amazing. um, it's one of those games I would definitely check out. I had a blast playing it, but like Judge said, this is one of those things where um, how you interpret colors is not necessarily how everyone else interprets colors, but men and women interpret colors differently. And
Completely different.
and I'll tell you that, um, you know, with my wife, I've known her for 15 years. We've been married for 9, and I've learned just, outside of this game, I've learned how to describe colors around her. Like, it's one of those things where like I'm like, oh, that's tan. She's like, no, that's not tan, that's camel, or that's, so I guess that I did win. So I think that kind of helped, especially when she was giving clues, because I'm used to, how she describes colors, and you know it's not just lavender, it's lilac and all these other different things, so you know it gets to those points where if you know the people at the table, you gotta kind of know how they describe colors. But yeah, my wife and I have got into disputes on what colors are what, and in real life, right? And this is one of those games that it's how well do you pay attention, especially if you're playing with your significant other or someone like how well do you pay attention to how they describe colors. But yeah, this is fun. I definitely want to get this one to the table again, even with a larger group. But I will give this game a huge double thumbs up simply because they had gray as a player color. And I think this is one of the first games that have gray as a player color, and I picked that color because that's my favorite color, which is not really a color, it's a hue. Um, but I didn't want
Blank
to
Slate did too.
That's right,
Blank
and that
Slate
was
did
gray
too.
and blank slate too.
Yeah.
Cha-ching. All right. So so let's get to the last game. And I had the chance to play this one, and Judge, this one will be definitely being handed over to you so you can play with your group. I know you weren't able to meet up with us when we played this one, but this
Yeah,
one
definitely
is
gonna do that
called
one.
Scooby Doo Escape from the Haunted Mansion. And if you are listening, let me just start it off this way saying, if you've ever been to an escape room, like a legit escape room where you get together with a group of friends or family and you go to an escape room where you're locked in, not necessarily locked in the room, but you're in a room for that 1 hour and you're trying to solve puzzles to complete the task to get out of that room, and you enjoy that, or you've wanted to do that, this is exactly what you want in your collection. Or this is a game that you just want to buy. You don't even have to be a board game collector. Buy this game. All right, so of course, my review is right there at the full fledged. This, hands down, in my opinion, is the best escape room in a box. So the Scooby Doo Escape from the Haunted Mansion is part of the Ops Coded Chronicles game line. It's new. This one dropped just this year, and they're supposed to be releasing a one later this year called The Shining. And yes, it is based on Stephen King's movie The Shining, which I'm excited to check that one out. I'm a big horror movie fan. I know Judge is not the big horror movie fan, but yeah, The Shining is definitely one that's I'm a big fan of. But What's cool about this game is it's there's like tiles that create the mansion, and it's story driven, which is something, if you're a fan of even RPGs, this is one that I think you will appreciate and can enjoy with your family, with kids. And this game is pretty much played with, the box I think says it, one or more players. However, so you can have a big group play this game, and how it works is you and your group that you're playing with are playing cooperatively, and you are part of, you're driving in the mystery machine. You're part of the Scooby Doo crew, right? And you have um, these tiles that are on this board, and I'm going to actually go into this box to show you some of this, because those that are watching this review on YouTube, um, I want to see, kind of show you some of the components. There is a review on our website for this game, and if you are listening and you want to check out a detailed review, and this is one that you should. So it starts with a booklet that you says, just read me first. So you read this instructions, and it's really short, very quick, not even 5 minutes through. And then there's 5 booklets for each character. You got one for Velma, one for Shaggy, one for Daphne, Scooby, and Fred. And pretty much this book, they have the stories and the clues within them. And you start off with a tile. Pretty much tile 1 is on the board, and it's like the foyer. And I'm not spoiling anything by giving you this, but there's a tile 1 is pretty much the foyer of the mansion, and on there is different 3-digit numbers. For example, it could say 325, whatever the case may be, and every character has their own number. Velma's number 1, Fred is number 5. And whenever you place Velma in front of an item, it could be, let's say, a mirror on the game board, and that mirror is labeled 235, and you place Velma there, she's 1. So you create 1325. That's your 4-digit number. And what you would do is find the character that 1325 correlates with. That would be Velma's book, and you would find that 4-digit code in this book and read the entry. And it is a story base, so it's cool. As we got into it with our family, we were having the same voices, and many of us were all adults, played with my in-laws and played with my wife and my brother-in-laws, and we grew up watching Scooby Doo. So the voices that we were like we felt like we were voice actors, reading it as that such, and we had a blast with it. And what's pretty cool is every character can do something different. They have a different ability. So Velma can research, Shaggy can eat, Daphne is able to use items, Scooby can smell things, and Fred, he's able to investigate stuff. And you're just using your brain to figure out which character you should look at certain items with. Um, you know, if it's a food item, do you go with Shaggy to eat the item, or do you go with Scooby to smell the item, or do you do one first and then the other? So it's an order of figuring out this puzzle as you go through. And I definitely thought it was fun. You see the story, and as the story unfolds, you read it, and it might tell you to, you might find an item, and it might, it has a deck of cards, and the cards are numbered, and dependent on, it might say, hey, draw card 22 from the deck, and you look for card 22, you flip it over, and you see what's on card 22. Like you said, it might be an item, it might be, it may be even like things like secret doors or keys, or whatever the case may be. There's so many different things in the game. It might be a person you run into, but it even has these cool envelopes that are secret envelopes, and it might say, hey, open the contents of envelope 1 or envelope 4. And now you're actually acquiring these items in like a puzzle. Like you would actually, if you're in an escape room and you have these little puzzle pieces that you find within the room, you actually are figuring this thing out, which is pretty cool. And what's good about this is, it's not, like I said, it's not necessarily a 5-player game. So You can have one person who's in charge of picking the stuff out of the deck. You can have one person that wants to read Velma for a couple turns, and then you can hand it off if you get tired of reading and things like that. So, hands down, this is something you got to check out. And what's cool is that you're not destroying anything from this escape room. You pretty much just um, go through, read it, follow the story, and solve the mystery at the very end. Um, and then the Mystery Inc. team is back at it again. This is not a copied story from a TV show. This is a complete new adventure that they find themselves on. Which, if you're a fan of Scooby Doo and you have kids that are that are decent readers, or kids that are learning to start exploring things and they understand numbers, I think they'll appreciate this because they can listen to the story of it and have fun with it. Um, and if you're a fan who grew up watching Scooby Doo, definitely check this one out if you're looking for something that's an escape room. I'm a big fan of some of the escape room games that I've played. Specifically, um, I've played the Exit series games, and I've played the Unlock series games. And I was a fan. I preferred the Unlock series for myself, primarily because you didn't destroy anything. You could play through um, the games and hand them off to someone when you were done, which was pretty cool. They are a one and done. Again, this is a one and done, which is the negative about it. I would say the only negative I can give is that once you've played it through, you've already finished it, you solved everything. But I will tell you from experience, this game doesn't have a time limit. Like, you're not like a regular escape room. Some of the Unlock series, you have like an app where you have like 1 hour to solve it, and depending on how you do, you get it. This game pretty much has where, as you're solving puzzles and you miss a certain puzzle or you get the wrong thing, it might say, "Hey, you didn't find this. Eat a Scooby snack." So you have, I think it's like 20 Scooby snacks that you start off with, and the more that you eat, the lower your score is at the very end. So pretty much you play it as if, how many Scooby snacks do you have? And you go from there. So I thought it was really, really cool. So definitely, Judge, this is one you have to check out. When we meet up, I will
Absolutely.
be handing this one over to you so you can check this out with the family. But definitely, my hands down favorite type of escape room game. And I did appreciate the Scooby Doo, and I will definitely be getting The Shining when it comes out. Honestly, if I remember correctly, I think I pre-ordered it already. So
There you go.
when that one drops, I think that drops in November or December. I'll be excited for that to come to my front door. And I know my father is a huge Stephen King fan, and he is not really big on games at all. He'll play every once in a while. We drag him in to play a game, but I'm pretty sure that he would like to check out The Shining.
There you go. It goes back
So,
to the original. Find
so
what they like, pull them
yep,
in.
that's right. So overall, Judge, from the games that we got a chance to check out, what do you think? What do you think of them?
I think overall, each game, games that I played over on my side and games that we played together, um, absolutely recommended each and every one of them. They, I would even go as far as saying the company, any game that they have, you can look into and guarantee you'll love the game, whether it's an IP game, like you said earlier, or whether it's one of their custom games that they make, like their own brand of games. Because the biggest thing that I love, and I remember asking Ross this in the interview that we had, is like, how hard is it to get the permission to use these, the likeness of these characters, and these origins, the movies and everything, and it, I mean, definitely explain how sometimes it can be tough and sometimes it can be easy, but they definitely deal with more tougher times because they have to wait to get an answer, and sometimes they have the game built and done and then they're like, no, you can't use it, and it's like, what, or they have this amazing idea for a game and then they couldn't get permission. So I definitely appreciate them for taking that step to modernize board gamers and have them relate on another level, which is capturing them through movies, which is I feel like a very smart way of going about it.
Yeah, I think the
Ultimately, Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, yeah, I think that like you were talking about that licensing component is definitely something that would introduce people to new games. Like I said, this is one of those companies where you would look at it and be like, oh, they have licenses for all these things. It's just gimmick games, and while you may not be a fan of a Scooby Doo Monopoly, you might be a fan of Scooby Doo escape room type game. So these are one of those things like, yeah, you may look at it as gimmicky, but I would say don't sell sell it short because it's just not your heavy strategic or strategy type game, right?
Right.
The IP doesn't necessarily mean it's just pasted on there. Sometimes the game is actually very, very good, and you just got to look at it's just designed. They've taken an approach to grab people with things that people are familiar with, right? And we talked about it before that, how do you get someone to the table? And one of the biggest things is find out what they like. So,
Right. And the one thing I wanted to add is the one game that I'm looking forward to getting and actually playing is the Die Hard,
oh
the
yeah,
Nakatomi Heist. I really want to play that. That I remember watching one of the reviews on YouTube, and I was just like, oh no, I definitely need to get that one. So it came out last year, so I'm hoping to grab it soon. Hopefully that's like a little Christmas gift I can get for myself, because dads, we have to buy our own gifts because if not, we get socks and slippers.
so Judge, it's been fun getting a time to have you back, have my sidekick back, right?
It's good to be
To
back.
go over some of these games, let the people know what we've been playing recently, what we've been getting into, but also what's out there for them to try. Here at the Lobby of Hobbies, this is a chance to enter with us, share what you got, and discover
And
something
discover.
new. And I'll tell you what, we discovered something new when it came to playing RPG games, and you just might discover something new with some of the games that we talked over with. So, that's pretty much I got for me. What about you, Judge?
No, that's it, man. Like I said, I mean, we came in, we shared, and we definitely discovered not just games, but a whole company. For me, I discovered that I kind of was a fan of this company before I knew exactly who they were. So, the more I dug into it, the more the games we actually played from the company. I mean, the more I love the company. Talking to Ross was a great segue into the games because the way he talked about the games got me excited about the games. So, after that, it was just a matter of playing them. And then when we played them, I was not disappointed at all. It definitely, only thing I was disappointed in is our relationship because me and my wife got a lot of things we need to work on. But outside of that, the game was still amazing.
Awesome.
you know,
Awesome. So, I want to thank our listeners for joining us today. For those that don't know, we are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We have a website, but if you search the Lobby of Hobbies, that's where we're at. First, go on Facebook. We have the Lobby of Hobbies. We have a page there. We also have a group, a community that you can go into, and people are always chatting in there, posting about what they've recently been playing. Sometimes we just ask some questions of the community, and we talk about anything. It's just a community of people within the group, and we also have a page that you'll see some of our podcasts go up there, our links to YouTube, all those different things. So find us on your favorite, however you stream your podcast, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We are on Anchor.fm as well, and you go to Anchor.fm/Lobby of Hobbies. If you go on that website, you'll be able to pick whatever podcatcher you want to listen to. They're all there. But if you can even leave us a message there, and you can even shoot us an email. We are the lobby of hobbies at gmail.com. If you have a question, if you want a topic that you want us to talk about, hey, reach out to us. We would love to hear from you guys. But again, thank you for joining us, and we will catch you on the next episode.
all right, y'all. Peace.